Don't you hate mosquitoes? I do. Oof, when I hear that sound, my skin crawls. So when I was a kid, I was thrilled when the government sent those trucks that sprayed, well, whatever it was they sprayed, it was going to get rid of the bugs. Sometimes we were so excited we ran toward the cloud of white smoke. We were so eager to be mosquito-free. Now, of course, we know that what they were spraying was the evil DDT. Look how much of it they sprayed. Much more, it turns out, than was needed to kill mosquitoes. And yet, none of us worried. We breathed in tons of the stuff. It ended up in our food and water. And what happened? Practically nothing happened. Despite what you've heard, there's been no increase in cancers. Nobody died. No evidence that people got sick from all that extra DDT. Today, the prevailing myth is that DDT is a horrible chemical that should be banned. We think that because of a best-selling book that said DDT would soon kill all America's birds, not to mention give us all kinds of cancer. Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, won lots of awards. It's still used today as a text in environmental studies classes. Al Gore's been called the Rachel Carson of global warming. It's a good comparison because it turns out that Silent Spring is filled with nonsense, too. In her book, she suggests DDT gave one woman leukemia, but the woman was diagnosed with leukemia just 2 months after using DDT. Real scientists laugh at the book, but real scientists don't write bestsellers that influence people. Silent Spring made the DDT myth so powerful that DDT is now banned in much of the world. This doesn't hurt us in America because we already used it to eradicate malaria. Malaria used to kill 5,000 Americans per year. Now it's the ban on DDT that kills people. Richard Trenn just wrote a book about that titled The Excellent Powder. Excellent powder?
Excellent powder indeed. The title comes from a speech that Winston Churchill made in 1944 when he was talking about how the Allies were using the excellent DDT powder to rid the Pacific and European theaters of war of disease like typhus and like malaria.
But wasn't it giving people breast cancer and hormone disruption?
Absolutely not. There have been so many studies over the years that try and find an association between DDT and some human health harm. All of these studies are weak, statistically insignificant, and they don't comply with the most basic epidemiologic criteria that we need to prove cause and effect. We're mixing up association with cause of harm. So no, I mean there is no evidence that this is harmful to humans.
And today, if you take a fraction of what we sprayed in America and what I breathed in, and you put it on the side of a hut in Africa, that protects them from malaria.
Yeah, what happens is that tiny amounts of DDT is sprayed on the inside walls of a house. And it lasts there for about a year. And what it does is it just keeps the mosquitoes outside the house. It works as a great spatial repellent.
Keeps them outside for how long? 6 months?
For over 6 months, up to a year. It's a great way of protecting people from mosquito bites.
And yet some of these African countries say, no, we don't want this stuff. We know it's evil, you're poisoning us.
Well, not true. Many African countries have been trying to use DDT. Some do, and luckily now the US government is supporting some of those. Through the President's Malaria Initiative, they're actually supporting some of them. They changed policies from when you last looked at this some years ago. But one country in particular, Uganda, tried to use DDT, but they were so frightened that even the tiniest residues of DDT that may come onto some produce would lead to trade barriers and reject their produce from Europe, that they had to stop their program. It's so absurd. They were worried about DDT residues on tobacco. DDT that we know does not cause cancer on a product that does cause cancer. We should be worried about tobacco residues on the DDT.
And I should point out, this is not just between Rachel Carson and you. The World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease Control support indoor spraying.
Right, as does the U.S. Agency for International Development. They do so because it works and because we have an emergency in malaria, and we need to use the best tools that we can.
Now, I should say, we asked the scaremongers who keep telling these DDT stories to come on this program to debate him, and they would not. Groups like Pesticide Action Network, Greenpeace, the NRDC, the group of lawyers, World Wildlife Fund. I mean, I think these people are murderers. If 1 million people die of malaria a year, these so-called environmentalists kill people.
Well, I mean, murder's a strong word. But what we do know is happening is that there's enormous pressure on governments and even on the WHO to stop the use of this chemical, and instead to promote some of these bizarre so-called environmentally friendly solutions, like planting trees around houses that may or may not repel mosquitoes, maybe using fish that may or may not eat mosquito larvae. These are some of the most naive...
And they pay for drugs to treat malaria once people get it.
That's fine, and we should be doing that, but that doesn't mean... there's no evidence that treating alone is a legitimate way of controlling malaria. We need both. We need prevention and treatment. But to try and foist these so-called environmentally friendly solutions is ridiculous. These are most half-baked ideas. And in fact, it's insulting to public health professionals that need effective chemical solutions. This is an insect-borne disease, and we need good insecticides. And they campaign against all insecticide use.
World Malaria Day comes 3 days after Earth Day.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a Malaria Day if it weren't for Earth Day.
Right. You know, the anti-insecticide bias, the fear-mongering about DDT, and now that is about other insecticides as well, means that malaria control programs are left with fewer tools in their arsenal to fight this disease. And it doesn't just lead to the rise in malaria cases 20, 30, 40 years ago. It means that in the future now we have fewer insecticides and almost no investment in new tools. DDT is a great insecticide, but we need new chemicals. And there's just been no investment whatsoever in the search for these new tools.